Since the Eastbourne final. Stay subscribed. Here is the only context that matters for this story. In March of this year, Eala touched a career high of number 29 in the world. That number, 29, sits inside the top 32, the seeding bracket, the room she has already proved she can enter. But rankings move. By June, after a Roland Garros first-round exit and the ordinary churn of the WTA calendar, she dropped to 33, one outside. The Birmingham title 2 weeks ago closed part of the gap. Now the rest has to be earned in real time, on grass, against opponents who do not particularly want to help her get there. That is the entire setup. Not a biography, not a comeback arc, a single ranking number, a single cutoff, and the next 14 days of grass court tennis. So, look at what is actually in front of her. The Queen's Club Championships, the HSBC Championships, the new flagship of the women's grass season at one of the most prestigious clubs in tennis, is where this seeding push begins. Elena Rybakina is the top seed. Amanda Anisimova is seeded second. Emma Raducanu is in the draw. And Alex Eala, ranked 29 in the entry list, drew a qualifier in the first round. That sounds favorable. It is not. Because if she wins that match, the projected path through the draw moves her toward Iva Jovic in the second round. The same Iva Jovic who beat her at Roland Garros 11 days ago, 6-4, 6-2, in straight sets. The same player Eala has publicly called a close friend. The same opponent who handed her a first-round slam exit that has not yet been answered. And beyond Jovic, the bracket points toward Anisimova herself, a Wimbledon finalist, seeded second at this event for a reason. That is the path. Win against a qualifier. Then potentially face the player who just beat you on a new surface, with seeding points hanging in the balance. Then potentially face one of the most dangerous ball strikers in women's tennis the round after. This is not a friendly seeding push. This is a trial. Now zoom out and look at how she got here, because the math of her rise is sharper than most casual fans realize. 12 months ago, Alex Eala was ranked outside the top 140. By March 2025, after the Miami Open run that produced a quarterfinal win against the world number 2, she broke into the top 100 for the first time. The first Filipino player, men or women, ever to do that. By September 2025, she was inside the top 75. By the end of 2025, she had won her first professional title in Guadalajara and crossed into the top 50. By March 2026, she touched number 29, the career high, and became the first Filipino player ever to enter the WTA top 30. That is the velocity. From outside 140 to inside 30 in 12 months. Across multiple surfaces. Against multiple top 10 opponents. The trajectory has not been a steady climb. It has been a series of breakthroughs, plateaus, and reaccelerations, and the next one is sitting at number 32. The Birmingham Open 2 weeks ago is the closest example of what that reacceleration looks like. 6 days after losing in straight sets to Jovic at Roland Garros. 6 days after a slam result that most 21-year-olds would have spent processing in private. Eala walked onto grass at Edgbaston Priory Club and won the first set of her opening match in 22 minutes. 6-love. 3 matches into the tournament, she had dropped 0 sets. The final against Czech opponent Nikola Bartunkova went the distance, 6-2, 4-6, 6-3, and ended with Eala lifting her second WTA 125 title and her first ever on grass. That title produced 76 ranking points. Those 76 points moved her from number 37 to number 33, 1 spot from the top 32. The math is not abstract. The math is on the screen. And here is where the story gets quieter, because the top 32 cutoff is not the only mechanism Wimbledon uses to determine its seeds. Wimbledon is the only Grand Slam that adjusts its seeding formula. On the women's side, the WTA ranking is the primary input, But the All England Club's seeding committee has historically maintained discretion to consider grass court form, and players ranked between roughly 28 and 34 have moved across that seeded line in both directions over the years based on what they have done on grass in the preceding 12 months. Look at what Eala has actually done on grass. Eastbourne 2025 reached the final, lost a close three-setter to one of the most experienced grass court players on tour. Wimbledon 2025 made her main draw debut. Birmingham 2026 champion, 3 matches without a set dropped, defeated a Czech opponent in a 3-set final after a rain delay that lasted longer than some sets. That is a real grass resume built in under 12 months by a player who grew up on the clay of the Rafa Nadal Academy. The All England Club is paying attention to that resume the same way every other tournament committee is paying attention. This is the part of the story that the ranking number alone does not tell you. A player at number 33 with no grass court history is a borderline seeding case. A player at number 33 who reached an Eastbourne final, debuted on Wimbledon's main draw, and won Birmingham. That is a different kind of borderline. That is a player making the committee's decision easier with every match. The fans saw this coming before the rankings did. That is the thread running underneath every part of this story. Sky Sports lead tennis presenter Gigi Salmon said at a public industry event in London earlier this year, not as flattery, but as a statement of market observation, that in terms of appeal and the crowds that follow her, Eala might already be the biggest star in women's tennis. She described the atmosphere at Eala's Dubai matches earlier in 2026, when Eala was still ranked outside the top 40, as feeling like a pop concert. Players ranked outside the top 40 do not generate that atmosphere by accident. They generate it because a market saw something the rankings had not yet ratified. Kim Clijsters, 4-time Grand Slam champion, 2-time world number 1, Belgian, with no nationalistic reason to elevate a Filipino player, went on Andy Roddick's podcast and used the phrase Michael Jordan in the Philippines to describe Eala's cultural position. Then Clijsters added the word that mattered most. She said Eala has to be protected like a big star. When a Hall of Fame champion uses protected in that context, she is describing a player whose cultural footprint has already outpaced her ranking. That player gets her seeding when the math finally arrives, and the math is arriving this week. What sits behind these next 2 weeks is bigger than any single tournament. No Filipino player has ever been seeded at a Grand Slam in the Open era. Not in men's tennis. Not in women's tennis. Not in singles. The Philippines is a country of roughly 115 million people, with a diaspora of nearly 10 million more spread across the United States, the Gulf, Europe, and East Asia. And across the entire professional era of tennis, the number of Filipino players seeded at any of the 4 Grand Slams is 0. The seeding line at a Grand Slam is not a trophy. It will not be carved into anyone's career resume the way a title is. But it is a structural marker. It is the moment a national tennis program crosses from produces good players to produces players the sport actively positions. It changes draws. It changes scheduling. It changes the conversation in every tennis federation in Southeast Asia about what is possible from their region. After Queen's Club, Eala has confirmed a wild card at the Bad Homburg Open from June 21st to 27th. The same week the Wimbledon seeding rankings will be fixed, where reports indicate she may partner with Venus Williams in doubles. Then, Wimbledon main draw, late June, where her name will appear in the seeded section if the math falls right. And where every tournament that has watched her rise this year will be watching to see whether the seeding produces the deep run the seeding suggests. The serialization is already written. Queen's Club, Bad Homburg, Wimbledon, 3 tournaments, 1 cutoff, 1 piece of history sitting on the other side of it. The honest part of this story is that she has not arrived yet, and the recent record shows it. The Roland Garros first round 11 days ago was her second consecutive slam first-round exit of 2026. The Australian Open ended the same way in January. The narrative this video is built on, the seeding push, the grass resume, the trajectory, has to live alongside that record. 2 slams in 2026 so far. 2 first-round losses. That is the version of the story the number 33 ranking actually reflects. Asked about that Roland Garros loss in the post-match press, Eala did not produce a long, reflective answer. She said, in the calm, flat register she has carried through every interview since she was 16, that she would keep working. 6 days later, she opened her Birmingham campaign with a 6-0 first set in 22 minutes. The bounce back was not philosophical. It was operational. That is the temperament the rest of this story is built on. The composure of a player who has been told repeatedly, by rankings, by seedings, by Grand Slam draws, that she is not yet in the conversation, and who keeps walking into the conversation and taking a seat. So here is what this video is actually about. It is about a 21-year-old from Pasig who has spent 12 months turning a number 140 ranking into a number 29 career high and is now sitting at number 33 with 1 spot to close before Wimbledon decides who it positions on its grass. It is about a Queen's Club draw that points through a friend who just beat her at Roland Garros and toward one of the most dangerous players in the women's game. It is about an Eastbourne final, a Wimbledon debut, and a Birmingham title that together built the grass resume her seeding case rests on. It is about Sky Sports describing a Dubai crowd as a pop concert, and Kim Clijsters reaching for Michael Jordan to describe what a country of 115 million sees when this player walks onto a court. But more than any of those, it is about a number. 1. The distance between Alex Eala and a seeding line no Filipino has ever crossed. She belongs at that line. The math says she belongs there. The grass resume says she belongs there. The crowds in Dubai, in Birmingham, and at every venue that has watched her this year say she belongs there. The only thing left is for the next 14 days of tennis to ratify what every other signal has already confirmed. When the Wimbledon seeding list is published in 2 weeks, look for her name in it, not as a surprise, as a long overdue arrival. And if she is in that list, if the ranking holds, if Queen's Club goes the way her form suggests it can, if the seeding committee weighs the grass resume the way the grass resume deserves to be weighed, then somewhere in Manila, somewhere in Cebu, somewhere in a Filipino household in Dubai or San Diego or Toronto, a child will look at the